Welcome to the Cookbook, where we invite guests on to share the ingredients of what has helped make them the successes that they are. All of it, the good, the not so good. You're not going to find anything half-baked here. And our kitchen gets messy sometimes. That's when the fun starts. So come on and join us. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Cookbook. I'm your host, Iris Goldfeder, and I am so excited today for our guest, Kerry Barrett. We met, like a couple of months ago, and she was going to be on, and then it didn't work out, and now she's here. But her background is amazing, and what she's doing now is amazing, and she's just like an all-around amazing person. So let's bring her on.
I need to hang out with you more often. I've never heard so many amazings used to describe me. It's fabulous. Thank you.
It's true.
You're amazing.
It was funny when you when we first met, and then I saw your background. It was funny because you used to work in news and all that stuff.
Yeah.
In the city. I'm going to let you tell everything, but it was funny because I think at the very beginning I was a little intimidated. So I was like, oh man, she's been doing this. Yeah, because I didn't know you. So it was like, oh my goodness, right? Like, and then I met you and you were just like so easy and so comfortable. And I was like, it was what?
Not intimidating at all and sort of crazy like everybody else.
Like everybody else. I mean, I said to my wife, I said, the reason that people stay together is because they found a match to their crazy.
Yeah.
Because we're all crazy. I mean, let's face it. We all have our crazy. So, so you're in Jersey. How is it in Jersey right now? Like, how's is it getting warm? Is it?
What is the temperature right now? So it's 46 degrees. It's like a lot colder here than it has been over the past week, although It's been crazy windy, like all these trees down and power lines down and all sorts of craziness in terms of the wind. But we're finally getting a touch of spring. Well, not at this precise moment, but we have been anyway.
Yeah.
What about you?
So it's 72 and we'll be under a tornado warning at 6 or 7 o'clock, which cracks me up because for some reason, like weather doesn't faze me. If there's like a tornado warning, my wife and the dogs are in like another, in their little safe spot. And I'm out looking at the sky. Yeah. And she's like, your insurance is paid, so I don't care. I was like, if you want to be a dumbass, watch it.
Are you looking for the rotation? You're trying to find where the actual funnel is going.
No, so for me, no, I'm not that brave. For me, I'm like when the wind blows my Weber, because we have like this really big Weber grill, and it's not locked down, but the wheels are locked. When the wind can blow that, then I go inside because that's when I know it's probably time. So that's my litmus test. That's my gauge. Is the litmus is the Weber. So
well done.
So anyway.
At least there's some sort of guardrail there.
Yes, I'm just fascinated with like lightning and just all of the storm stuff. So
you should have been a meteorologist.
I should have been a meteorologist. Yeah. But they get paid for being wrong all the time. So
they do. I mean, it's a great gig if you can get it.
It's a great gig. My friend Sarah is a meteorologist. Well, she does other things, but she was a meteorologist down in Texas. So now she's doing the weather every once in a while here. Mm-hmm. And so I said, so do you guys like guess? And she's like, no, it's like a real freaking science. And I always tease her. I'm like, you'd never freaking know. So about a few weeks ago, we were under a tornado warning, and she was on the news, and I'm texting her, and I'm going like, okay, like, so how long do you have to be there? She goes, until the fucking warning goes away. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, so how much longer? Because we weren't going to sleep because Piper. So when we get done, I'm going to give her calming treats because she gets really like freaked out. So I said, I'm like, so, do I give Piper treats? And she's like, give them to her now. Like, just give them to her now. So, so it was pretty funny. But anyway, all right.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question about tornadoes, but we're getting totally derailed. Have you ever seen one? Have you
Oh,
seen one
up
up
close? Oh,
Yeah. No.
no.
No. Okay.
I've
That's
seen, I've seen the aftermath because we had, oh crap, 10 years ago. It was weird. What's weird about tornadoes, I can't believe the podcast is about tornadoes now, but what's weird about them is they pick and choose where they land. It's weird because it's not like they're like, okay, we're on the ground and we're going to just stay on the ground and go on this path. They kind of go on the ground and then they can lift up and then they can touch down again. And that's what happened. So it hit one of my friends' houses. It skipped over one of my friends' houses, hit one of my friends' houses, and it destroyed the house. She was, thank God, okay. And then it went across this, it's called 52. It's like this road that's like a 4-lane highway, two lanes each way.
Yeah.
And then it touched down on Voestalpine. So it touched like the back of Voestalpine, and then it skipped over and then hit like Subaru. So it was just weird the way that it hit.
Crazy.
So I didn't actually see it because we weren't in the bathroom at that point. We were just like, okay, we're going to stay here and wait it out. And
the grill had moved.
About the grill moved. It hit 2 miles from us.
Yeah.
So it was like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I used to live in Texas, and when I was in the news industry, I was never a meteorologist, but I started my career there, and there were more than a handful of times when I would have to go out storm chasing, like actually trying to find the rotation and, get video of it, which we would go down a whole different trajectory of this conversation.
Okay, so next time we'll have you on and we'll call it Twister.
Okay.
Twister the podcast.
They're crazy, and it's so unpredictable. Yeah, I'm with you on that. It's scary stuff.
Yeah, see, Speaking of unpredictable, no. So tell us about you. Like what?
I know where you were going with that.
Right. Just kind of like, I love the way how things just kind of work. But you were like an anchor on like one of the morning shows, and then you went out on your own. So tell us your journey, because I thought that was fascinating.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So
tell us what you can tell, I guess. Right. So
yeah. I'll tell you there'll be some parts that are redacted. No, I was in the news business for 20 years. I overcame a very crushingly excruciating, debilitating fear of speaking, and to go on to have this 20-year career in, again, the news industry. I was on air. I did a little bit of producing, but mostly anchoring and some reporting. It started my career, as we just discussed, in this tiny little town in Texas, Wichita Falls, and then sort of hopscotched around the country until I ended up landing in New York City, which is where I wrapped up my career. Won a couple of Emmys while I was there for my on-camera work, and then left the industry in, I guess we're going on it was shortly before the pandemic, so the end of 2019, and then launched my business right before the pandemic. And it's taken a couple of iterations, but now basically what I do is public speaking for the camera. So I work with a lot of lawyers, but I also work with executives, and I work with, some business owners and entrepreneur types to hone their on-camera skills so that they can create compelling, video content for sales and marketing and, webinars and podcasts and all that other good stuff. So I take those skills that I learned as a news anchor and use them to help people develop their own on-camera persona. Get over the fear.
What made you say, man, I'm doing this news anchor stuff and now I don't want to, or now I want to do my own thing, or because there's always like one, I think, point that everybody gets to that it's like, I'm out. Mm-hmm. So what was that point for you?
The interesting thing is that it didn't come all at once. So the challenge with as much as I loved TV news, and I really did love it. I loved the storytelling. I loved the people I worked with. And newsroom is an amazing place to be when it's operating in its, prime, it is like just a beehive of energy. It is big personalities and lots of witty people and people that are, they think on their feet. And it makes for a very engaging, really cool, dynamic place to be. That said, there are some challenges with TV news, and we've seen that sort of grow a little bit exponentially over the last, 5-ish, 10-ish years. And has it been that long? It has. Okay. I got to stay away from that road.
It's like, I know.
Anyway. Nevertheless, so the challenge is that as someone who is a practitioner of this particular craft or industry, the challenges for me were that I became frustrated with lack of context. So, why were we telling the story about this? I'm going to use all the cliches here. Why were we telling a story about this drive-by versus this drive-by? Was one more significant than the other? No, it's because, we heard this one on the scanner first, and we happened to have a stringer, a freelance videographer who was out in that area. It was very sort of
wow.
And it's not TV News's fault. It is, they've got really smart people that are trying to cover these large areas of news where it's happening, and you obviously can't get to everything all at once, and you only have a finite amount of time to put that content into anyway. And so that became really difficult for me anyway. As a practitioner, there was lack of context. It's part of what TV is. And so there were periods of time throughout the course of my career where I got really frustrated and thought seriously about leaving. But every time I did seriously think about it, it seemed like something else popped up that was like, well, maybe this is the fix, like a bigger role or, more money or a bigger city or, every time I really seriously considered getting out, something new would pop up. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not that maybe I'm just tired of it here, whatever. Anyway, so 20 years of that. And finally, after I had my third child and was waking up for the morning show at 12:30 a.m. and getting sort of a couple of naps in, short naps, like a 2.5-hour nap here and a 2.5-hour nap there. And that would be my sleep Monday through Friday. I was a zombie. I was a shell of myself. And so when I left after my contract was up, I had not planned anything. Like there was no runway built. I had no idea what was coming next. It was sort of like I leapt out and then I had to figure out how to open the parachute on the way down, to use the tired cliche. And that parachute was really janky. Like it didn't unfold properly, and all sorts of things happened with it on the way down. So I made a lot of mistakes, and I may not have hit rock bottom, but I beat the shit out of the walls on the way down there. It was a really, really tough, like the first, I would say 3, maybe even more than that, 3.5 years were excruciatingly difficult. Had I known then what I was about to go through, I probably would have approached it with much more resistance than I did. The thought that I put into starting a business basically went like this. Somebody said, you should start a business. You have lots of skills. And me saying, okay, that's cool. And then starting a business. And that's truly like about as much thought as went into it. I'm like, the next day, I'm doing my research. I'm figuring out how to get an LLC and start up a website and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, it was very, very tough. I've answered your question in a very long-winded way, but ultimately that's what took me out of the news industry was exhaustion.
No, but I wanted you to, and I wanted you to, and you say that you hit the walls on the way down. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, and I kind of did what you did. Well, it was a little bit different. I got fired from a company that I think we talked about, because, I'm not going to say because I wouldn't wear dresses and I wouldn't kowtow to the, men clients, but I think that was a big part of it. I don't wear dresses. When they hired me, I don't wear makeup. I don't wear dresses. I'm not going to go in front of it. I'm just not going to do it. Anyway, so long story short.
Your eyelashes.
Okay. Could you imagine? I mean, you don't know me long enough, but I think you know me well enough. It's like, fuck you. No, not going to happen. And I told my boss that. I was like, do you see my number? Like, do you see my sales number? That doesn't come from batting my eyes. That comes from, anyway. So when I left, it was more out of like necessity, because I can't stay home and collect unemployment. That's not me. So it was like, do I look for another job and go work for a company because I was at the point, I think, that I was tired of people hiring me to do a job and then them telling me how to do it. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you hire me because of my expertise, if you hire me and then you want me to do a fucking job, let me do it. But they weren't. So I called all my clients and I was like, they fired me. And they were like, are they insane? So one of the guys was a marketer. And I told him, and he said, well, you sold us the commercial, so come and watch it get shot. And then let's talk, because maybe we should start a business together. He goes, because I've never seen anybody as good he goes, you sold me. He goes, they've been trying to sell me for 5 years. Yeah. You sold me a $75,000 contract. Wow. So I went, okay. So we talked, and then, we started it. But I decided that I wanted the business to be in Indiana, and I wanted it in my name. Mm-hmm. I don't know what made me say that, because I never, I did have an LLC prior to that, but that was like a different thing. But it was just like, I want to keep everything here. And it was a good thing I did. And that was it. And then we started the business, and it was, there were a lot of growing pains. And I think really 3.5 years ago was when this new iteration really took off and did the thing. But it took a long time and a lot of mistakes.
What do you think changed for you? Sorry, I'm going to turn the tables here. I'm so curious. What do you think changed for you after 3.5 years? Like, what was it?
So it was after 7 years. So it was one partnership that kind of, my partners started getting to the point of, and it was partner in name only, right? Mm-hmm. So it was getting to the point where, hey, this deadline is due. And he's like, well, she's an asshole. She can wait. No. It doesn't matter if she's an asshole. She can't wait. That's not how it works. So I got out of that. And then I went into another partnership, and we just saw things differently and did things differently. Like, I'm not transaction based. Like, for me, my business isn't transaction based. It's based on who can I help? Mm-hmm. And I want to know them. I don't want them to be a number. I want to know them. I want to know their kids' names, their birthdays. I call my clients on their birthdays and I sing to them, so it's like, that's the stuff that I love. So, so we ended our partnership, a little rocky, but we're friends now. And I think what did it for me was I got COVID the year before, and then I was hospitalized from complications. I almost died, but they didn't tell me that I almost died. Oh. Well, because I was in PCU, and I'm wondering, like, why am I in the hospital? I'm in a suite. I have a 50-inch TV, and my wife has her own little area, and there's an ensuite, there's a bathroom, and like the whole thing. I'm what the hell? And they just didn't tell me. And by the time I got into the room, I was like so high from all of the drugs that they gave me that it didn't matter. And I had all the specialists coming in.
Oh my gosh.
And I have it's fine now because everything is stable, but I have to get, checked every year. So I went for my final, the first annual checkup, because I had to go, it was like 30 days, then 60 days, then 90 days. then 6 months. So that was like a year. And he said, so everything is stable. You're going to be fine. Just come back once a year. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, there's no danger of anything rupturing or clotting because I have 2 dissections. It's called bilateral iliac arterial dissections. It's like this thing. Okay. That only I would get because it's like nobody gets this. Like the only people that get this are people who they smoked for 30 years and they quit and they started doing like I don't know, CrossFit or something like that. That's who would get this, right?
Really? Oh my God.
It is rare, like 0.00008 get 1 dissection. So to get a bilateral,
2, yeah.
I don't do anything that fast, right? So when he said that, and I realized, I was like, wait a minute, I'm going to get teary. He said, if you didn't go to urgent care and catch this, you wouldn't have been alive the next day.
Oh my God.
And I was just like,
holy crap.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I gave him a hug, and then I went in my car and I called my mother-in-law because I had to call her first to tell her that everything was stable. I hung up. I cried, called my wife, cried some more, got home, called Kofi and said, let's do the podcast. Because he was after me to do a podcast. I'm like, let's do all the fucking things. So it was like, okay, let's do the podcast. And then I looked at my business and I was like, what do I want from this? Like, how can I use this for good? Right. Because it's not just about the money. It's not, of course I want to make money, but I mean, it's, how can I do the most good? And then I started looking at all of the skills that I have and the people that I worked with, because I work with all contractors. So I started just putting a plan together of what felt right. And everything just fell into the way that it was supposed to fall in.
That's awesome. That's very cool. And I'm glad you caught it. Oh my, I guess you are actually maybe sort of lucky in that case.
It was a really weird, it was just weird. It was like my stomach felt weird. And I said to my wife, something just feels off. And I went to urgent care and they took x-rays and everything. And they said, everything looks good. We took your blood. So when we get the blood test back, we'll let you know. They said, if your white count is over 10,000, then you have to go to the emergency room. And this is like right during COVID, right? So I'm like, okay. And then I was like, wait a minute. When I used to have cramps, I would take Motrin and they would go away like that.
Yeah.
So I took the Motrin and it went away. And I'm under my blanket. I have my heated blanket and my wife made me soup and the phone rings and they're like, yeah, your blood count is 11,000. You have to go to the emergency room. So I said, I'm in bed. Can I go in the morning? And they're like, no, you have to go now.
Now.
So I went and they weren't, I was fine when I got there. Like I felt good. They're like, what's your pain level? I was like, I don't know, 2.
Yeah.
So they were like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I don't want to be here. They told, like they were being really stupid. I was getting really annoyed. I was like, you think I wouldn't rather be home in bed than here?
Yeah.
And then they called me in and the guy said, let's do a CT scan just to make sure. And that's when they caught the first dissection. And that's when they said they were his exact words were, so we're going to admit you, but don't worry, we don't have to lifeline you.
Oh my God.
So he's like, we're not sure if we're admitting you here or at Methodist, which is like the bigger hospital down in Indianapolis. And I went, what? So I start freaking out. They give me whatever, like fentanyl, whatever the hell they gave me.
Yes, sedative,
my wife, they couldn't give anything. So she's like, and we have masks on, so they can't see that we're like,
drop
freak blood.
Out. Yeah.
Yeah. It was an experience, but
oh my God.
But
look what came out of it. Yeah.
Look what came out of it. And we met. Look at that.
Yes,
so
there you go.
Here we go. So now tell us about, there's always, I look at everything that happened, like my entire life, but, in these past, 3 years. And the amount of growth, right, that I've gone through, that my business has gone through, that my soul has gone through, all of it has just been, a blessing. And I'm grateful every day, and I get to do things like this, and meet people like you, and so I just feel very grateful and lucky. So
yeah, well, I'm grateful that we met as well, and glad that you're doing better. That's a crazy story.
Well, thanks. I'm doing great. I mean, I'm going to be 65 in what, a month, and
happy early birthday.
Thanks. So now, so let's talk about your business. Like, how do you help people?
Yeah, I work with, as I mentioned, I work with a lot of attorneys, but I also work with executives and business owners and, entrepreneur types. And I have a couple of programs that I walk people through, but basically it's helping them understand how they're crafting their on-camera delivery and persona. I like to bucket it in sort of 3 buckets. And this ties back to my news anchor sort of upbringing, if you will. It's pre-production, it's production, and it's post-production. The pre-production, like during a 3-month program, the pre-production is understanding your camera logistics, your setup, your shot, your settings, all the things that make your shot look pretty, how you show up in that shot, everything from lighting to what you're wearing to whatever, and then understanding your message. So crafting your message, understanding the different types of videos. A video for discoverability on YouTube, for example, is quite different than a video bio that you might put up on your website, in terms of not necessarily the delivery, but the way that the video itself is structured. And so, a video on YouTube Shorts needs a hook and a specific call to action at the end, generally speaking, whereas a website bio is not really at all about creating a hook. Somebody's going there to probably vet you. They've heard you or they found you, and now they're on your website looking for other content to figure out whether you're the right person for them. My point in saying all of that is those are the elements that go into pre-production. So setting the stage, if you will, understanding the messaging, understanding the format, making sure that your shot logistically is set up the way that it needs to be. Then we move into the production phase. And the production phase is what you're doing when that camera is actually on and you are recording into it. So it's everything from understanding your on-camera delivery, how to show up with energy. The camera is energetically flattening for all of us. How to show up, using the right vocal variety and facial expressions and physical performance. And when I say performance, I don't mean that you're putting on a performance. I'll put that sort of in air quotes. I don't mean that you are being fake or phony in any way. All I mean by performance is that anytime, and this applies whether you're standing on a stage and talking to an audience in real life as well, anytime you are addressing a number of people, anytime you're public speaking, that's a better way to put it, that's a performance. And all I mean by performance is that you are using the skills and the ability that you have to deliver in a way that mitigates or overcomes the challenges that particular medium or format has put you in. So when you're on a stage, what are some of the challenges? Like maybe you have a huge audience and you don't know how to make sure that the person in the back row can hear you. So your performance and your delivery factors into that. When you are on camera, how do you make sure that the energy with which you think you're delivering is actually what is translating and coming through the screen, right? That's part of your performance. It's understanding how to deliver effectively. So that is sort of that middle bucket, again, the production. And then post-production is the editing and the distribution. So while I'm not an editor, a lot of my clients want to be able to create simple captions on their videos, understand how to trim pieces off, the front, the back, et cetera, et cetera. And so how do you create simple editing processes that anybody, even those who are like tech remedial the way I am, can manage and get their arms around, and then the distribution element of the video as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And it's funny. Like when I'm on stage, I'm like, can you hear me back there? Because it's, I mean,
well, you know what? That's part of who you are, and that's part of delivering your on camera. I mean, that's part of the way that you deliver on a stage. It's so interesting, though. A lot of times, and you sound like you like public speaking. A lot of people, as you probably know, absolutely loathe it. But having video these days is no longer one of those things where it's a nice to have. My feeling is that having video content, whether it's for your website or for your social media or whatever, you're doing webinars or video podcasts or whatever, it is a must have. It's moving in the direction of, let's say, like, I don't know, maybe 10 or so, maybe 15 years ago, you could have a business and not necessarily have a website. Now, if you don't have a website, you're not a legitimate business. Video is moving in the same direction.
Say it louder for the people in the back, because that's what we do. Louder for the people in the back. It's true, though, right?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And a website. And a website.
And a website.
But the thing with video, and because what we do is similar, but you just do it on a different like level than what we're doing. But I think that if people don't have video, then when people are vetting them, they kind of don't know who they're meeting. And I think that, for me, it's like I tell our clients, when you do video, people see you. Mm-hmm. It's like, so for me, I think the biggest compliment that I get when I meet people is, oh my God, you're just like you are on video. Yes. And I'm thinking, well, how the hell else would I be? But there are other people out there that do have different personas. They are different when they're on film. And when somebody meets them, it's like, oh, you're not what I expected. Yeah. And that's why I'm like huge on authenticity. Right. So, but I think that when people see your video on LinkedIn, on YouTube, whatever it's on, that's going to be what makes them decide if they're going to work with you or not, because they see you. And it's like, man, do they jive with me? Like if I say, fuck.
Yeah.
A conservative is not going to work with me, right? A very conservative person is not going to work with me because I'm not going to say fuck because you're uncomfortable.
Right.
You're 100%. Not the right client for me.
Yeah, exactly. And fuck them. No, I'm just teasing.
My friend Michelle is like drinking wine right now. Every time I say fuck, she drinks wine.
I like Michelle. I meet her.
Getting all screwed. All right. She's great. But it's funny because it's like if you're, when we're authentic, and this is the biggest thing that I push. When you're authentic, it doesn't matter, right? And it sounds like, when you're recording people that, you want them to be comfortable and, authentic because that's what they're doing. How do you get people comfortable? Because it's like, I'll work with people sometimes and they're just like, I can't. How do you get them over the fear? Because I have had people that have wanted to, work with us and they are literally petrified. They're like, I can't do it. And they stutter. Yeah. Even talking about it, like the thought of getting, not that I want any of your secrets, but it's just like you know what I mean? It's like, how do you get, because people that are listening to this, I want them to use you. So,
listen,
what do you do to make people at ease?
Yes. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I do. I'm so glad you asked this question. So one of the things that I do when I work people through my program is our second session, we do a Gallup strength assessment. And if you're familiar with Gallup strength assessment, it takes a look at what your top 5 strengths are. What we do specifically though, is we take those 5 strengths and then we figure out how they're applicable to your on-camera persona. So you are a teacher and you're a learner and you have woo, which is win others over, which is a great strength to have if you want to be on camera.
Different woo than mine.
Yeah. So we figure out how we take those strengths and how we apply them to who you are on camera, because a lot of programs will focus mostly on eliminating the and again, I'm going to put air quotes around this, the mistakes, and there are mistakes that people make, like a good speaker versus a bad speaker, who you want to listen to and who makes you tune out. But one of the things that a lot of them miss is that they don't take into account the things that people are already really good at and the things that are already their strengths. And how do you expand upon them when it comes to creating who you are on camera? And so that's like the first thing. Now, if you haven't taken a Gallup strengths assessment, or you have and you haven't related it to video, then what do you do? Well, there's a couple of quick tips that I can give you that will help eliminate or help you overcome that challenge. The first one is, if you have somebody who has watched, it's somebody you trust, who has seen you preferably deliver on a stage in front of an audience in real life, create a video for them and ask them to watch it and let them know where they see the difference. If you're really good on a stage, but you haven't figured out how to translate that authority and that presence onto a lens or through a lens, that perspective of somebody who's seen you in both cases will be really helpful. Like, you're really good at doing this on a stage. I don't see it translate over here when you're on camera. That'll give you some things that you can work on right away. One of the other things that I like to do when I'm advising a client is, imagine somebody that you really trust, or that you really like, or a combination of the two, even better, and talk to that person when you're delivering on the camera. So what I like to do is I'll tell people to take their phone. Don't record on the side that has the screen. Record on the other side so that you're not distracted by your face. Tape a picture of somebody that you like and trust on this side, right? So you can tape it on the back of your phone. And then when you are beginning to record, address that person by name. So like, if I was going to use my 8-year-old, for example, hey, Ben, do you know what people need to do when they're thinking about how to create their on-camera persona? They need to blah, 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 blah. And then you just edit out the hey Ben, or the hey whoever, and use that as your video. Your brain will equate, it's not a perfect correlation, but your brain will mirror in its delivery and the way that it thinks about that situation more closely the way that you would talk or converse if you were talking to that person, face to face. And finally, the last thing that I suggest, and these are just a couple of hopefully pretty easy to integrate practices into your daily experience, is something that I call the 30 and 30. And basically, it's open up your phone and riff into it for 30 seconds. It doesn't need to be about anything that's work related. It doesn't need to be about, it could be about a new pair of slippers you have. I actually suggest that, generally speaking, you pick something that you don't have an emotional attachment to. So because I look around on my desk, I have a scrunchie here. So maybe I'll talk for 30 seconds about this scrunchie and how it is a lovely shade of brown and it's silky and it's just the right size to put my hair in a bun, whatever. You're riffing on it for 30 seconds. Watch that video and pick one thing that you want to work on, whether it is eye contact or energy, or it's pauses when you are speaking, whatever it is. And then focus on that one thing each day that you're doing a video. And I would do 30 seconds every day for 30 days. And let's say you feel like you have your arms around that particular, you won't have it mastered, but you've got a feel for what it's like when you are speaking with more energy, right? Then move on to the next thing. And maybe the next thing is you need to focus a little more on eye contact. It's a basic one, right? So then work on eye contact. And when you feel like you've got your arms around that, then move on to the next thing. And then go back and watch the difference at the end of 30 days between the first video and the 30th video. And I guarantee you will see a difference. You will see an improvement, not just a difference. And the reason that that's so important is because oftentimes when people are taking on or tackling a brand new skill, especially one that can bring a lot of baggage, just like public speaking, they try and fix all the things all at once. And it's like running 65 marathons at the same time. You make very little progress in any of them and you get frustrated and you give up. Whereas if you work on one thing until you have your arms around it and then you move on to the next, you're able to work on one thing at a time and you're not, your brain is not so overtaxed thinking about eye contact and energy and facial expressions and am I pausing enough and blah, 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 blah. And you won't have mastered all of the skills, not by a long shot. I mean, I was in the news business for 20 years and I've been speaking on camera now for 25 and I still find ways to improve. But you will get a sense of what you're good at and what you struggle with and the areas that you need to focus on.
That's great advice. And I love, so when I started doing video in 2020 and when I was doing it, I had the camera facing me and I never in a million years would have thought of not like having it like that because, and I wonder if that would have made a difference. So there was this, my friend Nina Fareep has, I always say Clockwork, it's Clockwise Productions. And when COVID hit, like,
I know Nina.
Oh, you know Nina?
I do know Nina. I'm like, that sounds really familiar.
Oh, she was a producer. You should. Yeah, she was a producer before she did. Oh my God. Okay, what a small world. Okay, this is amazing. So Nina did this thing called the 30-day video challenge. But I met Nina because it was COVID and I was stuck in the house. I couldn't leave, and I am a social person. And it was like, I will die. Like if I don't have connection, I'll die. My dogs will find my body and eat me and it'll, so I started just infusing myself in these marketing groups and people would say stuff. Then I would throw something in and they're like, who's this? And then, so then Nina and I talked and Kofi had been trying to get me to do a video for like a year. And I was like, I never should be on video. Like, cause to me, video was like news anchors and really pretty actresses. And like, I did not belong on it. And he was like, you're insane. So we did this video in January. Well, I know I'm insane, but so we did this video that January right before COVID. And we did it. We have a co-working studio here called Matchbox. And we did it. And he showed it to me. And I was like, I hate my profile. I look like a bird. Like I came up with like all of the things. Right. And so we showed it to Amanda, who's now the executive director. She got promoted. And she's like, you look fine. And I'm like, no, it looks like shit. Plus I had this 60-inch screen up here where I'm reading all of my, like I'm thinking, okay, I'm thinking. And meanwhile, I'm reading all of my talking points. Right. So that wasn't obvious. So I show it to Nina and she goes, it doesn't suck. So I said, okay. She said, I'm doing this challenge thing. And I was like, I'm in, I'm in, let's just do it. Yeah. And you're right. After 30 days, it was a complete difference. And then after, I think like 2 months, it didn't matter because now it's June. Yeah. So we're right in the beginning of the throes of COVID. Everybody looked like shit because nobody could get to the hairdresser. So I had my Bonnie Raitt thing, in the middle of my streak and everything. But everybody on video did. And what I realized was it's about the message.
Yeah.
And as soon as I realized that it had nothing to do with how I looked or, how you present yourself. Yes. But even then, honestly, there were days I'd be in a t-shirt. I was like, I don't even feel like getting out of freaking bed. Right. So, and that made all the difference for me. It was just like, oh, it's about the message. I could talk all day long. So her favorite video that I ever did was I did marketing fails, but then I did, it's called the paper towel video. Look on my LinkedIn when you get time. And I think it's like the first video, you'll get a kick out of it. But she's like, that's my favorite thing that you ever did. Because it literally came, from the heart. And it was a differentiator from, Bounty and Brawny.
Mhm.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
So
Okay. Can't wait to see
let
it.
you look at it. But so yeah. So okay. So you came out of the newsroom and you started your own thing. What advice
Yeah.
do you have for somebody who's thinking about becoming an entrepreneur?
Oh my gosh. I would so
Yeah.
how many episodes do you want to do?
We can do a few.
Yeah, I would love to. So I would the biggest, this is coming from my personal experience, and everybody has their own journey and their own experience with entrepreneurship. My problem when I started, and when I say when I started, I mean this shit persisted for a long ass time. I had no idea how much shadow work I needed to do. Meaning, I thought that was fairly self-aware. I had overcome this huge fear of speaking already. Now I was like on TV in front of millions of people. I had no problem. I could do it in my sleep. I didn't get destroyed by a mean tweet. Like, I thought I had my shit pretty squared away. I did not. I come to realize very shortly after starting a business, have my shit squared away, not by a long shot.
Wow.
And so recognize that there's going to be all sorts of blind spots, and they're going to manifest in all kinds of ways. They're going to manifest in thinking small. They're going to manifest in can-do-itis. They're going to manifest in your pricing. It's across the board. I wish I would have recognized how much work I needed to do. And I'm still, you know what I was reading before we did this podcast? A book called You Are a Badass, How to Stop Doubting Your Greatness and Start Living an Awesome Life. And I read these books every day.
Call me once a week and I'll tell you what a badass you are. Are you kidding me? That is so funny. See, and I love that.
Yeah. The shadow work is everywhere. And like, I doubt myself all the time. I must, if I'm going to deliver this, I must be able to change every single thing about their business. I must be able to make it. And I'm like, my own business isn't running on all 8 cylinders half the time, like I can't, I'm not fixing everything. I need to be able to say, this is what I can fix and feel strong about it because I know I can do it. The other thing, and this has been huge for me, and it ties back into that sort of can-do-itis thing, is that I hated the idea of niching down. And I thought, well, I have this skill set that these people can use, and 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 I can help them in this way, and I can help them in this way, and what do they want? And it was too confusing on so many different levels. Number one, I had no idea. My website copy was a friggin' disaster because I had no idea who I was talking to. My LinkedIn content, which is my primary social media platform, I'm on the other ones, but not nearly as much. I wasn't talking to anybody because I was trying to talk to everybody. It was like a classic public speaking thing. Yeah. Like, don't try and talk to everybody because you won't talk to anybody. Talk to one person. So my messaging was all messed up there. And when I would get on sales or discovery calls, I would be like, well, tell me what you want. And I was depositioning myself as the authority. No, they want me to tell them, here's what I see and here's what you need. And so it was with much resistance and massive amounts of reluctance that I finally said, fuck it, I'm going to talk to this group of people. And it was a fairly recent change, actually, as of the recording of this podcast, that I made that decision to niche down. And what has happened is incredibly interesting. Not only is it just the group of people that I've opted to talk to on my LinkedIn, which is lawyers, but I have found that people in the investment space and in wealth tech and in fintech, and some coaches and consultants. And I had an entrepreneur reach out based on video that I've created on LinkedIn. More people, even though I'm not talking directly to them, are starting to approach me, again, inbound. I'm not talking to them. I'm not reaching out to them because my messaging has gotten clear. And even if they're not a lawyer, they can see themselves in what it is that I'm talking about. And so niching down has, interestingly enough, allowed me to broaden in the people that I work with. Whereas before, nobody had any damn idea what I did. I didn't know what I did, for that matter. And I would say that is my biggest thing is like, it's, and I've heard, every entrepreneur that I think I've ever spoken to has struggled with this idea of niching down in the beginning. And I could tell you, not niching down cost me, I can't even count how much money in copywriting and marketing, and without knowing who I was talking to. It's wasted money and wasted man hours and shit tons of both. So niche down is like one of the very first things you could do, even though it's scary as hell.
Wow. And that, I think you're the first person who said that. Like, I love asking that question because the answers that I get are they're just so across. This is like 100 and I don't know how many episodes, and each answer is like completely different. Some are similar, but I don't think anybody's ever said that right away, right off the bat. And you say authority, and it's so funny because now the dogs are going to get into really. Okay, so,
is your girl moving yet?
Oh no! Do you see the sun? It was supposed to be freaking cloudy. I would have covered my fucking window if I knew. I'm like, the sun is coming in this way. And Kofi's going to be like, I told you to cover that anyway. But so I did this thing. I told you about the thing before, my woo thing. And Kim Woods is the authority in it. And so we were in our class yesterday. And one of the things, and I love how you said authority. So for me, it's like, people come to me because I know my shit, right? So they come to me because I know my shit and I have the answers. Not that I have all the answers, but I just know what people need. I don't know how, but I do. So, I do. So we were doing this thing on story yesterday. So it was like, write your story. And then it was like, what are the things that happen to you on the daily? And it was like, well, on the daily, I'm the authority. People come to me with questions, and prospective clients, friends, whatever. And then I wrote down my 3 words, and it was authority, mentor, and advisor. And so she said, I want you website copy. I don't care if it's on a post on LinkedIn. I want you to own it and use it. And so for you, while you're sitting there reading, you're a badass, it made me, it's so funny because like, nobody would ever know. Yeah. Looking at you, watching you, right? You don't know that. And I think that the fact that you could be vulnerable enough to say, this is the book that I'm reading right now, because even I have doubts. I think that's huge. I think, that makes you a badass right there, because how many people would say that? Yeah.
And well, I think one of the things that's really challenging too about entrepreneurship is the fact that we don't say it. And so we end up feeling very alone in what we're going through. And I finally hired a business coach, and she's like, girl, we all go through this. It's just that when you look on social media, you see somebody, driving around in his Lambo in front of his like 10,000 square foot, mansion. And we see all the BS and we see the highlight, and we just assume that nobody ever has gone through it. And holy shit, if I ask this question, everybody is going to know that I'm a dumbass, or I don't know what I'm doing, or whatever. And we end up like siloing ourselves into this little spot where we are not comfortable. Listen, you know what? I'm not keeping this author in business. There's shit tons of other people who are reading this book too.
And we all get imposter syndrome, right? So we get imposter syndrome because we're like, wait a minute, I was in a meeting. This was like so funny. I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with this new client who had nothing, didn't have a logo, brand new business starting out. He had the capital because I'm like, I'm not working with broke people anymore. I'm just not, because I can't afford to work with broke people. So, so we're going through this thing, and he's like, okay, so he signed on, and I'm mapping out this, I'm doing this roadmap for him on, okay, we're here. You want to be here. We're not going to do all the things, right? We're going to go step by step. And I'm doing this, and I'm talking to him, and he's looking at me like I am the be all end all of marketing. And I'm thinking to myself, what if I fucking tell him the wrong thing?
Yeah.
What if I'm not right? What if I'm not, and I started like, spiraling, and I went, no. First, come back to the meeting. He chose you out of every other agency that he spoke to, and he spoke to every single agency in town. So, it was like, okay, come back. And then I got into my authority. And I think that that's the thing, is that when we own our expertise, when we own our, this is our price because we have all this experience. Go hire somebody who's green, and you'll get what you pay for. But if you want to work with us, this is what you're going to, right? So, and I think, everybody goes through it. Yeah. Every single person 100%. Goes through it. And I don't think it ever stops.
Oh, it doesn't? Damn it. I was hoping at some point it would stop.
I mean, what I will say, I think what stops is where it's constant. I think it sneaks up every once in a while. Yeah. Right. It's not like it's every weekend it bites you in the ass. I think it's, for me, it happens maybe twice a year now, where it would happen. Maybe in the beginning, it happened all the time. I'd be in a meeting going, oh my God, do I really know, do I know what I'm talking about? But I also had somebody telling me for a few years that I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. They knew everything better than me and whatever. So I had that, that I had to get over, which I did. And, once I got over it, and I was like, wait a minute. Like, as soon as I started doing stuff, it was like, your shit. Of course, your shit. What's wrong with you?
Right.
But then the imposters, would come up every once in a while. Now it's rare, but when it comes up, man, it's just like, oh, can you just please go away? I thought you were gone. It's like, go away.
Do you find, I think one of the things is interesting is that I find that it pops up when I am doing something new. Like, there's things that I had imposter syndrome about when I first started. Now I've moved beyond that. And now I'm in a different space, and there's some imposter syndrome that pops up about some new challenge that I am facing, or some new situation that I find myself in. It's like it evolves with you. It's really annoying.
Yes. As we evolve, so does our imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think so. But I think also that it kind of, I think some of the old stuff stays because, we all have our baggage, right? And as much therapy as we've gone through and all the other crap, I think that there's just always that little, the little angel and devil on your shoulder, right? And there's always that little devil that, that usually the angel is like, you're not even going to get to talk now, so just go the fuck away. And it kicks the devil away. And so it's just the angel there going, you're awesome, you're badass, you're the authority, you're great. And all of a sudden, a little fucker, kind of like curls up your shoulder, and that's how I think it happens.
I
just think.
Go ahead.
Yeah, but in doing new stuff, 100%, because now you're doing something new.
Yeah, absolutely. And I used to think that because I had imposter syndrome meant that I didn't know what I was doing. And I realized that that's actually not the case. I mean, I have to be intentional and talk to myself about it. I'm like, well, you feel imposter syndrome, Kerry, because you're a fraud and you're a scam and you don't know what you're doing. And I realized that that's just my ego talking, trying to keep me safe versus I know I'm not scamming people. I know that I know what I'm talking about when I look at the facts and I look at what's on paper and I look at the reviews that my clients have given me. I know that I'm not a scammer, yep. But there's that part of me that's like, and I think it's also tied into, for me, like an element of people pleasing. Like I always want you to have the best experience. But what does that end up sometimes on my part? It means that I'm working on the weekends and I'm working for free, or I'm working for, on the weekends at the same rate as I work during work hours, regular business hours. Like it pops up in those sorts of ways, because I think there's also an element of like, I still have a need for validation. Probably we all do. But I think the two tie together for me.
Yeah. And I think it's women. We're women.
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
100%. I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think my husband deals with this shit.
What I find really interesting is, and I kind of like bucket where it's like, people are like, oh, well, we feel we have to be people pleasers, but, because we're women. And I'm like, fuck that. Because I've never felt the feminine or the wifey, or even though, I'm married to a woman, but it's, like I never had it. I didn't think I had that. But then I look back on everything and it was like, oh my God, I used to like buy friends, or like I wanted to make people happy, or, want people when I was younger, not anymore. But it's like, it was this, this need to be liked. And then I was like, oh, I'm uncovering some shit now. So it's like, I did want to please people. I wanted people, what the fuck? Thank you, 60s, 70s, whatever. Now it's like, for me, it's not about people pleasing anymore. It's about giving my clients the best value that I can. But I'm not going to do it at my expense, meaning my personal expense. I don't mean financially. I mean, I'm not going to work with somebody whose values don't align with mine, who is morally inept.
Yes.
Like that.
Morally bankrupt.
Yes. Morally bankrupt. Thank you. Yeah. I just won't. And my wife was like, well, you have that luxury because she works for a corporation and they don't look at people's, politics or whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, I do have that option. I am not going to work with somebody who takes pleasure out of hurting people. Yeah. Not going to do it. And then I had a guy who wanted to work with me, and this will be probably obvious. And I opened up the screen and there was a whole bunch of stuff that I don't agree with. Yeah. And I was like, this isn't going to work. And I didn't do that before. I would write an email. I would do the 15-minute vetting call and say, the team will let you know. And I was like, no. And he goes, but why? He goes, is it because of this? And I said, it's 100% because of that.
Yeah. Good for you.
Yeah. And he goes, well, that's, this is business. And I said, it is. And I am damn good at what I do. And I'm going to make you some money. And then you're going to turn around and take that money and give it to causes that want to hurt me. So I'm not going to work with you. And we ended the call. He was just like, what can he say? He was shocked. He was like, I can't believe this. He goes, I've been watching you on social media. I've been, whatever. And I said, I get that. And I'm flattered. I said, but we are completely, our values are just, they don't align. Yep. And he was like, you're making a mistake, typical, you're making a mistake, money. And I said, I probably am. Have a good day. And, click. Yeah. Good for you. And I was shaking. I was shaking. I was like, fuck, because I don't want that. I don't want the energy. I didn't even want the energy on the Zoom call. I was like, do I delete Zoom and then reinstall it to get the, the energy off?
To get rid of the bad juju. My goal is to have a call just like that one and handle it in exactly the same way. I'm so impressed. I love it.
I will. It felt really good. Like I got off the call and I normally I'll have like another call or something, but I had 15 minutes and I went out and I just like held the dogs and I cried. I was like, why am I so stressed, over that? But I think because people now can find you. People, it's fucked up.
Yeah.
So I try to be careful, but I was like, you know what? I'm not shutting up. I think our problem is that nobody speaks up. People are afraid to speak up. And I think that we need to. This stupid piece of hair has been killing me all fucking thing. Sorry. But just going to my eye. See, you're smart. See, we're over an hour already. Damn.
I know. I love these conversations.
Okay. Well, I know. Well, we're going to talk more, but thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I mean, to hang out. So how can people find you?
The easiest way for people to find me is to go to my LinkedIn. My website's undergoing a bit of a revamp. I'm getting ready to launch a special program that'll be coming out in July. It'll be a group program. So you can find all of the information there on my LinkedIn. So you search me under Kerry, Kerry, Barrett, Barrett.
Yes. Okay, cool. And watch her videos on LinkedIn because they're really good. I've been watching you. And okay, I can't believe we're here. Okay, so the last question that I ask all my guests is, what lights your fire?
Oh, what lights my fire? There's a number of things that light my fire, but what really lights my fire is, it's going to sound a little bit cheesy, but it's my kids. I have 3 of them, 14, 10, and 8. And what lights my fire is trying to raise them in a world that I can be proud of, in a way that I can be proud of. And one of the reasons that I have my business is so that I can support them. And so they're sort of like underlying everything that I do. And they sort of just underscores, I guess, the impact I hope that my work has. I'm very similar to you in the ways that I move in the world and the things that I believe, and passing that on to my kids and showing them how they can leave the world in a better place than it was when they entered it is like that gets me going.
That just got me right here.
They're crazy. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I have no doubt, but all kids we were all crazy. The fact that we made it out alive, to me, sometimes is a miracle, right? So thank you so much. I'm going to say goodbye to the audience. I'll be right back. Okay. Everybody, thank you so much for hanging out for an hour plus. I hope that you all adore Kerry as much as I do. I think her story is fantastic, and I think just her human is awesome. So thank you for hanging out. I forgot to say this at the beginning, but click the like and subscribe and download and review. Give us reviews. The more reviews we get, the more we can, pop up, and we're trying to pop up there now. And then also in the comments, what nugget did you get out of here? Like, what nugget of wisdom did you get from listening to Kerry? Let me know. So thank you guys again. I love you all. And until next time, go out and find what lights your fire. See ya.